everybody. I'm Melissa Banczak, and welcome to episode 90 of Books Cubed, the show where I chat with authors you should be reading. It is Thursday, February 11th, 2021, and I'm excited about this week's show. Well, I'm excited about every show I do, but I really enjoyed my conversation with Tracie Provost. I know I can say her name. I really had a good time chatting with Tracie. As you'll see when you listen, and I keep saying, well, okay, thanks for being on, but wait a minute, let me ask you one more question. I think I did that for like 30 minutes because I kept thinking of other things that I wanted to talk to her about. Let's get right to it. We're going to talk about her book, Under the Blood Moon. She writes paranormal urban fantasy and vampires with historical flair. So you will really enjoy this conversation, and I will see you after. Yeah, I want to welcome Tracie Provost today to the show. Tracie and I met in, oh my God, I don't remember the year. It was at a conference in Tampa.
18, I think.
Yeah.
Years ago? Yeah. Because it was right after my book came out. Or so maybe it was 3 years ago.
Oh, probably because we've been in quarantine for what, almost a year now.
Yeah.
So
So,
I've lost track of time. I had a horrible dream last night that there were people all around me trying to pull tables closer and sit, and no one was
no,
wearing
no.
masks, and I was freaking out. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, years from now, if this show is still around and people are listening, there's this horrible pandemic called COVID-19, and it is killing all sorts of people. What is it? Huge numbers around the globe that have died now from
Oh,
this.
millions.
It's like, I want to say at least 2 million have died around the globe.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, it's I forget which country it is where they just dig mass graves.
Oh,
And
several of them, I think, at this point.
yeah, a South American country, and I think if you are caught on not wearing a mask, one of your punishments is to help dig the mass
I
graves.
saw that, but I don't remember where it was.
I don't either.
Uh,
I don't either. I said I try not to watch the news too much just because it's depressing.
yeah, I there's a constant tug of war between my need to stay informed as a conscientious citizen and my need to stay sane.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons more people are reading books. I think there's just been an
Yes.
explosion. I know in my books, December was my best month ever for sales.
Wow, that's great.
And it was Christmas, yeah, but I think
Hmm.
people are stuck inside. I write cozy mystery, so it's fluff. It's fun fluff.
Oh,
You don't really have to think.
I have been reading romances like I drink water. It is incredible because I want that happily ever after.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
and that's
I
really
want
good.
to know going in, this is going to be happy no matter what nasty things happen. It's going to be okay in the end.
Yeah, and I think I'd read that romance has taken a giant. I mean, it was already huge
Oh, it's
anyway.
huge. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I just can't. I get so giggly. I just can't read. I can't write it, much less read it. I just get too
Yeah.
giggly. And
I
I have read some,
understand.
and I don't know if you read Cecilia Mecca. I've talked about this before on the show, but I was listening to an audiobook of hers, and I was going someplace that I'd never been before. So the directions on the car,
Oh,
like
yeah.
every 30 feet, it said turn left. So I'm listening, and he reaches up to touch her, turn left at the next intersection. I had to pull over to the side of the road to finish the scene, and I'm giggling anyway.
Mhm.
Oh, gracious. So it's not good. But before we get too far in here, Tracie has written she's working on a series that takes place in New Orleans, and there's vampires, which are always wonderful. And Under the Blood Moon was the first book. But what is the series called?
It's called Under the Moon series.
I like that.
Yeah.
Under the Moon. So let me really quick read her bio since we've already, done the whole show, and here I'm reading it last now. Okay. So Tracie Provost grew up all over the US, rarely staying in one place for more than a year. She dreamed of becoming an author, but decided that the career path was not secure enough. So she got a PhD in European history.
Yeah,
I
because
shouldn't
that's
laugh,
so
but
much
it's like,
more
yeah.
secure.
Despite the odds, that actually was more secure, landing her a job at a small Southern college. Tracy never forgot her dream, however, and began writing again. Still teaching full time, Tracy divides her time between academic and fiction writing. There is a surprising amount of carryover, and I'm going to ask you about that. In her spare time, she reads, watches bad TV on Netflix. We got to talk about that, and is
Hmm.
ruled over by her numerous feline overlords. And if you follow her on Facebook, which you should, she posts lots of cat pictures. I love the animal pictures that you post. They're not always yours.
No,
Um,
no.
yeah, and the common joke is that Tracy writes to keep her cats in kibble, and isn't that how it goes?
Oh, yeah. Wow. And if it's not kibble, it's their vet visits.
Oh my word! Yeah, we had excuse me, we had a Labrador that backyard breeder. Some people
No.
had,
Oh,
and the dog had obviously had Great Dane in the family because his dog was a Labrador, but he was 135 pounds. And when he stood up, he was taller than my husband. My husband's a 5'11, so he would stand up as he'd be like a
yeah.
head taller. He would lean down and chew on my husband's hair. And my and I would always say, he's flossing his teeth on your hair because my husband had spiky hair at the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, he grew his hair out after that because I think the dog was flossing his teeth on my husband's hair. But yeah,
Oh,
so after that, and his vet bills were so expensive that I
yeah.
wanted another Labrador, and so I found a lady in Georgia who had championship bloodline,
Hmm.
and she only had like one puppy at a time. She was
Hmm.
very only bred the dog a couple times a year. They were mainly show dogs, and the dog's grandparents were Finnish champions. Her mother was a national champion,
Oh, wow.
and she almost didn't sell me the dog because she thought about showing the dog, and
Hmm.
I did confirmation with the dog, and I had this long list of people who wanted puppies, and I had her fixed, and they all were about to string me up. I'm like, no, get a dog from a shelter. I said the only reason I bought a dog from a breeder was because it was cheaper than all the money it cost to get all of the hip issues and all of the
Yeah.
other issues fixed with the dog that was too big. And
Hmm.
this dog was so smart. She really should have been a dog for the blind or deaf
Oh,
or
wow. Yeah.
yeah, she was amazingly smart, just out there. My daughter taught her the hokey pokey, and the dog did it with her. It's just, of course, I
Wow.
don't have it on video. It's like,
Of course
oh
not. No, no, never anything great like
no,
that.
no, it was the days before video and everything. So let's get back to books before we get
Yeah,
back
yeah,
on dogs here. But you were going to read a little bit of Under the Blood Moon for us.
yes. I will read from the first chapter, actually. And I don't do voices very well, so please forgive me.
No, it's okay.
In my dream, I heard voices. One sounded masculine, familiar, while the other was higher, the voice of a boy not yet mature. It was pleasant to hear things that were not the howl of the wind or the lash of the storm. Juliet, my beautiful Juliet. And then I felt a pain like no other as the stake was pulled from my heart. I gasped. The hunger rose in me. So weak, so terribly hungry. Opening my eyes, I fought to focus them as someone lifted me into a sitting position. I hissed my need as I turned my head towards my savior. My fangs descended, my vision cleared. The metallic scent of fresh blood caressed my senses. A very young white man stood close to me in the dim light. He held his bleeding wrist out, saying, Mistress, I am a gift for you. I am here to serve you. His words had barely left his lips when my mouth latched onto his proffered arm. The sweetness of untried youth filled my mouth. I heard a moan, but was unsure whether it had come from me or the boy. I was stronger now, more in control, or so I thought. The boy wobbled. I put my arm around his waist and drew him close. Wanting his blood faster than his wrist could provide, I looked at his long neck, the slow, Rhythmic thump of his heart beat in his throat like a siren's song. I raised my lips from his wrist and used my tongue to close his wound. I drew his unresisting body onto my lap. His face was angelic. My mouth descended, and my fangs pierced soft white flesh. The warmth of his blood delighted me, like the sweetness of cherries at the height of summer. I drank, and I drank, and I drank. I knew I should stop. Killing is wrong. Killing needs to questions. Still, I drank. The boy stopped moaning or even moving. His essence filled me and gave me strength. I felt his pulse slow and waver under my lips. As his heart gave its last beat, I ripped my lips from his throat in horror. Mon Dieu, I had killed the boy. I pushed the boy from my lap and stood abruptly. I wobbled a bit on unsteady legs. How long had I been in my enforced sleep, and where am I? This was not our bedroom in Andre's house. I looked around, stone floors and walls, waist-high bars. How cliche. After staking me, the hunters had placed me in a crypt. Not the Grammont crypt. It wasn't this large. Perhaps this was a different crypt in the St. Louis cemetery, although I could not recall any of the size. Have I been moved from New Orleans altogether? My sweet, the masculine voice said as he placed a hand on my shoulder. I am sure you have many questions, but we should leave. The voice from my dream, Andre, my sire. I recognized it now and turned to him. I nodded, still a bit disoriented. What about the boy? Will he be missed? Andre's lips curled into a smile. Always the worrier, concerned for the cattle. Don't be. The boy was for you, as he said, a sacrifice, if you will. I flinched. I'd never heard Andre refer to humans so callously, nor had he ever denigrated the retention of my humanity. I wondered where his had gone. I bent to pick the boy up and place him on the bier that I had vacated. With my strength, the boy weighed almost nothing. Leave him, Juliet. He is unimportant. I ignored my sire. I placed the body gently on the stone platform, crossing the boy's arms over his chest. Juliet! Andre's voice was laced with impatience. He deserves my respect, Andre. I will not just leave him in a heap. The boy's death worried me. Even as a newly turned vampire, I had never killed while feeding. One of the cardinal rules of vampire culture was to leave no evidence of our existence. I suspected that I had long lain in this tomb, so the discovery of his drained body was unlikely. But someone might miss him. He was too well fed and clean to be an urchin. His clothing was odd. I'd never seen breeches like these, and the fabric was unfamiliar. A shirt with no buttons or laces? How much time had passed? I said a quick prayer over the body. When I finished, I turned back towards Andre. He glowered at me. You are too soft-hearted, Juliet. It will not serve you in this era. Come. I dislike the dankness of this place. I followed without comment as he led me out of the crypt. Andre pushed the heavy bronze doors open, and I stepped into humid night air. Where are we? I asked as Andre took my arm and led me through the maze of mausoleums and graves. None of them looked familiar to me. We are in Metairie Cemetery. Metairie? We are no longer in New Orleans? Actually, we are still in New Orleans, but the city is much bigger than you remember. Andre, how long have I been gone? I heard the panic in my voice. He stopped and he turned to face me because I was barefoot. I had to look up at him. Gently, he caressed my cheek. You have been gone a long time, my sweet. He hesitated and then said, you have been in torpor for nearly 212 years.
Ooh, dun, dun, dun.
Done. Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah, now everybody will need to know why.
Why? Yes.
Yes, that's great. And as you were talking and obviously it had been a long time and I thought, okay, the European history comes in here.
Yes, yes.
So what came first? The European history or wanting to write a novel that was based in history? I mean,
Um,
did the degree help you solidify what kind of writing you wanted to do?
um, well, yes and no. Um, I had always wanted to write historical romances. And I ended up writing urban fantasy just because, over many, many years, my interest changed. But I've always loved history. I've always just, it just fascinated me. And when I was told that, being a writer was just really not a viable career, um, this was back when I was in high school and trying to make those, lifelong decisions as you do. I decided, oh, I will go and get my PhD and teach history.
Yeah, you think that will then cure you of wanting to do the writing, but then that must have.
Honestly, I will say that for a long time, I didn't write fiction. It was something that I always wanted to get back to. But I guess it was about 10 years ago that I'd kind of hit a wall in my career. I was really facing burnout and I needed to find kind of something a hobby I really wanted to do. And so I just started writing again. Um, and it also um, kind of interestingly segued that I was in a gaming group. Um, and we were doing old school pen and paper. We started off with Dungeons and Dragons, like, oh, I don't know, almost 20 years ago now. And then we moved on and were gaming with Vampire the Masquerade. And I had developed this character, Juliette de Gramont, who was this vampire spellcaster. Um, and all of a sudden, she just took on a life of her own. And as kind of part of playing this character, I started writing backstory and little vignettes of things that she had done, drawing on history and having just a lot of fun with it. And I ended up with like 200 pages of backstory.
Wow.
Um, and then I was like, okay, well, maybe I should write like what's happening to her now. Um, and I kind of started with the game we were playing and very quickly was like, okay, I need to change this. Although there are kind of some things that happened in the game kind of found their way into the stories because they were just too golden not to use.
Oh yeah, yeah.
um, Kind of like, when you're uh, out and about and you see something and you're like, oh, that is going in a novel. Yeah, there were just some things that were just, this is going in. Um, and so I wrote the first one, or at least the first half of Under the Blood Moon. and started going to conferences, writing conferences, and decided that I was really having a lot more fun with that than I was with the teaching. Although it did reinvigorate my teaching, because it gave me a whole new avenue to start researching, because I started taking a look at his monsters in history, and specifically in folklore. Um, and I actually started writing academic papers on monsters in history.
I was just gonna ask if that had made its way has that made its way into your classes then?
Yes, a couple of years ago, I taught an upper division class, on dark folklore, and we took a look at vampires and witches and fairies and werewolves, and you know where they sat in history, and you know the very interesting thing that a vampire type character or monster is found in almost every culture in the ancient world.
Interesting.
Yeah, no matter where it is. And I mean, yeah, there are differences, but you pretty much have this blood sucking creature in every culture.
Do you think that's is that just because that's there's these basic ideas that are going to show up in every culture, and I think that might just be one of them, and that's got to be a
Yeah,
fear,
it
of
is. It's a
something that
huge
comes in
feat.
the middle, the dead of night,
Yeah,
and takes you away.
yes, exactly. And especially, these are people who don't have, vast medical knowledge, and you've got, really unexplained things that kill people. Um, and, if you don't want to blame your deity, maybe you need to create something else to blame.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you got people who would have a medical issue that didn't kill them, and then they would come back, and so then you've got
Yes.
the people who
Mhm.
were raising from the grave. Uh,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So yeah, that's going to work its way into the different things. Yeah,
mhm.
that's really. Do you still teach a class then with that?
At the moment, haven't taught my dark folklore class um, in a couple of, I guess it's been about 3 years. I don't know what's on tap for next fall yet. I haven't seen my schedule, um, but I may try to finagle my way into teaching another one of those. It kind of all depends on what the needs of the students are. Because of course they've got their core classes that they've got to take, but then there's some wiggle room with electives, and obviously dark folklore is going to fall into that elective.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of my favorite classes in college was a folklore class,
Mm-hmm.
and studying all of the that like that movie Vacation where the lady ends up on the roof, the grandma or whoever dies, and they stick her in the rocking chair on top.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
it's happened it's a folklore story that has made its way into newspapers
Mm-hmm.
numerous times, and it never can be traced to an actual person.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The
so
urban
but it's
legends.
a legend, yeah, yeah, the
Yeah.
lady who goes down to do her laundry and puts on her son's football helmet, and then somebody shows up. I can't remember all the things
Yeah.
involved with that one, but yeah, there's so many. The mother, oh, the wife whose husband leaves, and he leaves his Corvette and says, "You sell my Corvette and then mail me the money." So she sells it
Mhm.
for $25. You hear that story.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't hear these as much anymore now that we have the internet.
Yeah.
It's like there used to be so many alien abductions until
Yes.
we had cell phones, and now nobody gets abducted by aliens anymore.
I honestly think that the aliens are just like, Earth is too screwed up. We are not going back there.
Yeah, they're like, no, they have cell phones. We got to go.
They're watching this going, this season of Earth, no, they're just too crazy right now. We're gonna let this kind of
No. Yeah, most definitely,
pass
most definitely. Yeah, that's just especially with, all the health issues and everything going
by. Oh
on.
yeah,
It's just making me nuts. I miss being around other writers. And
yeah.
I was all signed up for a conference. A friend and I were going to go uh to Nashville,
Oh,
and I don't remember when it was. There was a tornado that like destroyed the neighborhood we were going to be in.
oh wow.
Wasn't when we were going to be there, but it was
Yeah,
like 2 or 3 weeks
yeah,
before. But so it went virtual, and it,
yeah,
it was okay virtual. But the whole point, the speakers aren't where I go. It's I go to network and meet other writers.
yeah.
That's why I
And
go to conferences.
I feel exactly the same way. I'm really missing that energy
Yeah,
that I get from just being around other writers and talking about not just craft, but just mundane things that we do. Um, and as I mentioned when we were messaging back and forth, sitting in the bar and just having a couple of drinks and chilling out. It's so
yeah.
nice.
It is, yeah, and just I think we all work so hard. I'm very anal with my schedule, and it's very set.
Mm-hmm.
For every half hour of the day, there's something specific that we're doing. I have the time I set aside with my husband that's open, so we can do
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But then for the rest of the day, when my work, it's writing or it's marketing or it's uh, editing podcasts or whatever. Um, but yeah, it gets very too much almost. I
It
just
gets too rigid. You need
yeah, I
to
just
get
published
away
a
from it
book.
just a little while.
Yeah, I just published a book last week, the 24th. So my latest book was out.
Wow.
And I said to my husband, next time I publish a book, which should be March or April is the next one, I really would love to be able to go on vacation for a week, but I know we're not going to be able to.
Mm-hmm.
We signed up for a cruise that was supposed to go in March.
Ooh.
Bad timing. I know. We had just gotten our passports renewed and we were all excited about going on this cruise.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. And I think it's been rescheduled like 4 times now.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
we were rescheduled. We finally said, well, let's just reschedule for April because that's far out and everything will
Yeah.
be finished by then. But no, the April ones just got canceled. So I told my husband, well, maybe September, but we said, it's easier if they reschedule it, if they cancel it, than if we cancel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, just do for September, and it's not even a big cruise. It's just 4 days. It's a little one.
But still, it's getting away.
Yes.
Um, I was very lucky that I was able to get into a condo on the beach just before
I
Christmas.
saw your videos. They were so nice. Or your
Yeah,
pictures. Yeah.
and really, I mean, we totally socially isolated. We didn't go out. We were, in the condo. Um, so we didn't see other people. And when we went down to the beach, um, we were masked until we could see that there was like nobody else there.
Yeah.
Because I travel with my mother, who is, and she'll kick me for saying this, elderly. But of course, she's at high risk for COVID, and not like I'm not at risk, but the older you get, the more at risk you are, and she's got some lung issues and other things. So I'm totally paranoid about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My youngest and her boyfriend live with us,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't seen them, since last March, and they live with us. I mean, I,
Wow.
I mean, I see them, but they they just don't even want to be around other people. I don't blame them.
Mm-hmm.
I have horrible fears, and we wear masks, we
Yeah.
social distance, we don't go to restaurants.
I haven't been to a restaurant in ugh, We did outdoor dining once sometime, I don't even remember when. Might have been in September. No, it was cold. Um, so maybe it was after that. I don't even remember. I mean, it was so long ago. And we
Yeah.
only did it because it was outdoor seating and there was nobody else out
Yeah. Yeah.
there.
Excuse me. Yeah. We are near Disney and Universal and we will go periodically. But as soon as it starts to, we go when it first opens, and as soon as it starts to get crowded, we're out of there. And then we usually stay at home for about 5 days afterward. We don't go back any again for about 5 days just to make sure that uh,
Right,
that
right.
we didn't come down with anything. But like I said, we have these really good thick masks, and we wash our hands constantly. And I don't let
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
near us. And yeah, it's yeah, it's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. So let's get away
Yes, yes, go away from
from that.
COVID. But yeah, one thing I really am looking forward to after this is getting back and going to conferences again and going to signings again. I miss that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too.
Uh,
I had one book last time I did a signing. And now
yeah,
I've got
yeah.
9. So
Wow, that is incredible.
yeah, yeah. So, but that's been I hate to say there's been anything good about the pandemic, but the only good thing is that it kept me inside and got me focused. And I
Mhm.
wrote 2 books. No, I wrote, well, let's see, we wrote 6 nonfiction, and then I wrote 2 more fiction books. I have 3 fiction and 6 nonfiction.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then I hope my 4th will come out. We'll see.
Mhm.
I want to say that I'll put up a pre-order in mid-March for sometime in April, probably. When do you think your
Yeah.
next one what is the next
I
title for the Blood Moon
the
series?
next title, unless my publisher decides they hate the title, it's going to be Under the Harvest Moon. I don't know about a publication date yet. I am hoping by the end of the year. Um, the last time it was a really quick turnaround. I think I sent it in mm, May or June, and it came out the following January. So pretty
Oh,
quick, and that was with all of the edits and everything else. So I'm hoping by like April to get this to them, and hopefully they'll green light it and say, okay, we're good to
yeah.
go. It's with my beta readers right now, and hopefully the slight issue I had with my first draft got fixed in the subsequent drafts. My developmental editor was like, "You have an issue here," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm really working on how to fix that." Well, when you're writing it and you know how you have to end it, but you got that smidge in the middle, like just right towards the end.
Yeah.
And one of my characters did something that wasn't supposed to happen, and I just
Oops.
went with it. And then, yeah, I had to go back and fix it because I'm like, no, you can't do that.
I don't know if you're like me, but every now and then I know there's an issue, and I'm like, I wonder if I can sneak it past my editor, and then I'll turn it in, and she'll catch it immediately. And I'm like,
Yeah,
and
I knew it.
it's an issue, but you're like, oh, I've worked on it so much, and I just can't look at it anymore.
Well, it was kind of like, okay, let's get this down and put it aside for just a little while and let me think as the editor's going through the rest of it. Maybe by then I can fix it. I'll have the idea, I'll have that,
Yeah.
what needs to happen. And I think, fingers crossed, it works
Oh
much better
yeah.
this way.
Yeah. 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 My last one, the last chapter, I turned it in, and the last chapter was absolute crap. And I knew it
Yeah,
was. And I told her, I said, I know it's crap, but I have to turn it in because it's just making minutes. I don't know what to do with it. And then
Right.
I think it took me about a week to rewrite it, and I ended up with like 3,000 extra words and 2 extra chapters.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, because it just wasn't. I tried to rush it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
I was
and
working on a deadline and, because I was taking a course, and this chapter had to be done, and I was just like, "I don't like it, but I gotta get it in," and
yeah.
so, yeah, and the editor was just like, "No, your arc
Heck
isn't
yeah.
right."
Yeah, yeah, I know. So do you have a favorite conference that you want to go back to this next year when they finally come back?
Yes, actually. There's one that I almost always go to, and it's just up in Atlanta, and it's usually in October, and it's called Moonlight and Magnolias, and it's actually a romance conference. But the wonderful thing about romance is that they're like, "Hey, you write something adjacent? Come and join us." Um, and a lot of urban fantasy authors started off in romance.
Oh,
Um, or they also write romance. And I've met just some wonderful people through there. And actually, that's how I got my publishing contract.
nice.
Um, so, yeah, but I'm also looking forward to going back to Nashville to actually Killer Nashville. Um,
Yes.
they
Yeah, because I was
do
looking at that. Yeah.
they do a great conference, usually in August. And I've gone several times. I love that one too. And the people there are great. Sisters in Crime is incredible. I'm a member of Sisters in Crime as well because they're like, okay, so you don't write crime exactly. Crime certainly happens in my novels. There's a lot of murder and mayhem in them. So, yeah, it's adjacent. So, yeah, I have my fingers in lots of little pies. Kind of anybody who will accept me as a writer. I'm like, "Hi, I'm here. Let me come
Oh,
to your conference, please."
oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. The Sisters in Crime one, my sometimes co-host Terry is always telling me, you need to join Sisters in Crime. And I
Mhm.
keep meaning to. And then it's like on my office is filled with whiteboards,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I outline all my books in whiteboard, and then I have all my notes. Everything's in a different color. So it's easy to just look, and I can see.
Yeah.
And so somewhere in here, I've got Sisters in Crime written down somewhere. So every
Mhm.
time I do something, I erase it. Uh, and it's always nice when you finish a book and then you just wash the boards, get them
Mhm.
on the floor, and you spray them, and you just get the towels out and you completely wash them. And then, oh, that's so nice then to have all clean boards in the office. Oh, that's just so
Mhm.
great. And then not right now, though, of course, I'm in the middle of 2 books, so all it's all a horrible mess again. But yeah, it's conferences. Yeah, I'm looking forward to them. Orlando has a good one, Indie Fest or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I went a couple years ago, and there's all kinds of great conferences. And I didn't go as an author; I went as a reader.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think I went in to buy books. It was like 5 minutes. I had an issue, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't buy books the first day. Maybe they didn't have the books for sale. Maybe the first day was conference. So then the next day, there was an issue, and I couldn't get up there until like 30 minutes before they were closing. And I was
Oh,
so
wow.
mad. I had an issue. I just couldn't get up there. And I lived a ways from Orlando.
Yeah,
It was maybe 5 minutes left. And I just ran around the room, and I feel bad about this. Everybody had knocked their books down to like $5 to get rid of them.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
bought like stackfuls,
yeah.
stackfuls, and they're all over. And I'm
Mhm.
slow. So if you were there and I bought your book, I am slowly working my way through my favorites and having the authors on. Yeah, I think I just had one of the books I'd read there on like last year finally, because it took me, her book was, I just read from the top and just take the next one and
Yeah,
just go down the stack, and it just took took me like a year to get to hers. But
I completely understand that. My stack is actually not a stack anymore. It's in boxes because I moved in the middle of a pandemic.
why did you do? I
Uh,
actually did too, but we got
yeah.
kicked out. Our guy decided to sell the house we were renting.
Oh,
So why did you decide to move?
well, actually, this was in the works before the pandemic hit. Um, my mom and I decided, because as I mentioned, she's getting older, and we decided to combine households, because she's not really to the point she needs a lot of help, but it was coming. And so we decided that we would build a house that would serve both of our interests, um, or both of our needs. And we actually started that like last January, before the
Before it all,
pandemic.
yeah.
Um, and then she actually moved in with me in February, like 3 weeks before the lockdown hit.
Wow.
And the house was still being built. Um, and then the house got finished and we moved in. And, um, the biggest issue is I can't get to IKEA to buy more bookshelves.
Oh.
I didn't want to move my crappy old, Target ones that I paid like $20 for 20 years ago. I promised myself I would get those really nice Billy bookshelves with the glass
You
um,
can't, if you can
front.
get to IKEA, you can't even get them. I was gonna get one for one of my kids for Christmas, and there's an IKEA about 30 minutes from us. And so we ran over, and every single bookshelf with the glass
Oh,
covers,
wow.
none of them. I think it's a supply issue. They may get them like from like China or something, with all the trade wars that were going on, they totally screwed up imports and
Yeah.
things. And I think that was the problem. And
Oh,
you
wow.
can't get them.
Well, maybe
Uh,
it's a good thing I, can't, because my closest IKEA is 2.5 hours from here. So it's kind of a big production to get up there. And didn't want to go in the middle of a pandemic. So,
Yeah. Yeah, this was a Christmas gift, so we were like, we
mhm.
double masked and went in and,
Yeah.
um, and checked it out, and yeah, every single, and I should have
Oh,
called
wow.
every single one. So we went to Target, and I found a
Mhm.
really nice one at Target that had, iron supports,
Oh,
like
wow.
decorative iron on it, and Target actually has some really nice furniture.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've got some of the Billies already, and I kind of want to
Yeah, you want
build
it
it
all to
out.
look
Yeah, I want it
similar.
to
Yeah.
be the same. So I'll just, it's in boxes. It'll stay in boxes until the supply um can, you know, get itself righted.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you've got the first one out. Oh, you also have a nonfiction historical book.
Yes, yes, it's actually a history of Hawkinsville.
Yeah.
Um,
It's got a big steamboat,
yeah,
on the
Hawkinsville
cover.
is a river town, here in Georgia. And actually, I used to live in Hawkinsville. And a number of years ago, one of my colleagues and I um, co-wrote this book. I called it my tenure book. I needed to write a book to get tenure, and so I did that. Um, and I've had some other, smaller things come out in, the chapters in other books, nonfiction wise, um, actually including a, a, um, a chapter that was called From Horror to Madonna on the evolution of the female vampire. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah. And so That came out, I guess, about 2 years ago. Of course, I can't remember the exact title of the anthology it came out in, and I don't actually have it up on my website. I need to put it up there. Thank
Oh
you
yeah.
for reminding me about
Yeah,
that.
you need to do that. You need to do that. So you do have a website. So if people, when people read the first book, I'm going to move this so I can get back to it. When people read Under the Blood Moon, and you have time because the next one is not coming out probably till
Probably the end of the year, I think.
probably,
Probably.
yeah, when you're traditionally published, it takes a little bit longer than an independent publisher who can just throw books up as quickly as you want. A
Yeah.
traditional publisher has a schedule, and there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that has to take place for the books to come out. But people have time to catch up. So
Yes.
I will have links in the show notes to the book. You heard the first chapter. It's very good. You want to read more. Uh, and if people want to, do you have a mailing list or anything to tell them when the next one comes
Yeah,
out?
if you go to my website, there is a place that you can sign up for my mailing list or my newsletter that I will admit doesn't come out nearly as often as it should. And there's kind of a mostly defunct blog on there. Every once in a while, I remember that I should write on it about once every 6 months. I'm like, oh, I need to do that. What I really need to do is like make a dedicated time to do that. But yeah, if you sign up for my newsletter, you actually get a free story, and it's part of how Juliet ended up staked in that crypt.
Ooh, okay.
So if you want to
Okay.
know exactly what happened, I mean, you get part of it in the book. It's alluded to why she was there, but if you want the actual scene where she gets staked, that's what
Okay. Yeah. As soon as
that's
we're
what
done,
you
I'm going to
get at
go over
your
and sign up because I
reading.
want to know how she got in the crypt. So, okay. That bugged me. How did she get in the crypt? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a whole story that evolves. You kind of get little bits of it um, throughout um, the next couple of novels. Um, you know, why she was staked, who really did it, because spoiler alert, who she thinks did it
Didn't. Oh, well, that's the
didn't.
best thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't never want it to be obvious.
No, no.
Yeah.
But they always assumed that it was hunters because who else would stake a vampire?
Yeah. Dun dun dun.
Done. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming on today. We will
Thank
have,
you so much for having me.
oh, yeah, this is great. I should have done this sooner. I've just, I have such a long list. I'm slowly working my way through through people slowly because I only put this out once a week. And then last November and December, this past November, December, I moved because our
Right.
landlord decided to sell their house. And at first, as soon as the pandemic hit, he tried to kick us out as soon as the pandemic hit. And there was a stay in place order.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, I can't leave if I wanted to, and it was, yeah, it was, I had several people volunteer to go over and kick his ass, but it's like, thanks,
Yeah.
but,
Something needs to. Good grief.
yeah, it's,
Um, we were kind of amazed that the house, the construction continued on the house because we kind of figured, oh, well, we're just kind of, we're in stasis here with mom living in my house with me, which was not set up for two people to live like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah,
Not that there wasn't like a spare room, but you know, bathroom was down the hall, and she didn't. None of her stuff was there, and uh, the cats were a little crazy, and they were like, "Who's this new person here? And why is mom home all the time.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We were watching somebody walk their dog the other day, and thinking we don't have an animal anymore. My
Mm.
dog was 17, and we
Oh
lost
my
her. She was 17.
yeah,
And no, she was
that's a great
19. I'm sorry.
long
She was 19.
that's a great long time
Yeah,
though.
we had her for 18 years, and she was at least a year old, and the vet said she couldn't have been as old as 3 because from 1 to
Wow.
3, the teeth are all the same.
Yeah.
So they said somewhere, so we always said, well, at least 1. Yeah, and she had a stroke in the middle of the night, and we had to have her put down. But I know we were so sad because we had her for,
Yeah,
you know,
long, long time.
most of my kid's life, you
Yeah.
know. But we were thinking, well, how are these poor animals going to react when everybody finally does go back to work?
Mine have not reacted well.
Do they want you home or do they want you
Yes,
gone?
no, they want me home.
Oh,
Now, you'd think with cats, they'd be like, "Are you not gone yet?"
you'd
No,
think
my
that.
cats are lap cats, and there's 6 of them.
Oh,
So, there's
geez.
only so much lap to go around. But now they've really, since mom is still at home, they've really I come home and she's been catted. She's got like 3 or 4 of them on her.
Yeah, my mom moved. We had to put her into memory care. She's got
Yeah,
dementia, and she moved to from California here, and she lived with us for about 4 months while we were waiting for a space to open up for her. And thank goodness we have excellent nursing homes,
yeah,
assisted living facilities in Florida. Just I've heard horror stories from other people, but her and now she's in hospice care because she's nearing the end there. But she lived with us for a while, like 4 months, and my dog loved her. Oh my God, I've got a picture of the dog stretching up one paw on the chair and looking at her just like you are the most important
yeah,
person in the entire world. She just loved her so much, and I kept meaning to get the dog. Once she was in memory care, kept meaning to take the dog down to see her because I think the dog missed her, and
yeah.
we never did, unfortunately. It was kind of hard to do because she moved over to the memory care side, and then all of a sudden, COVID, and
Yeah,
they
and
locked
then
them.
there's
Yeah, I
mhm.
saw her like the day before they locked down, and the day before they were going to lock, no, 2 days before they locked down, and the day before they were going to lock down, I happened to go to drop some things off, and they said, "We think we may lock down tomorrow. Do you want to see her?" And I said, "Oh, you won't be locked down long."
Yikes, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see her for 7 months, maybe. Yeah, and she has memory issues, and so
Right,
by the
yeah.
time by the time I saw her again, she didn't remember my husband anymore, and she likes him better than me, and by a lot. And she doesn't know who I am, but she knows that she's happy when she sees me.
Well, that's good though.
Yeah, so that's good.
At least
So yeah,
it's it's a good reaction, because my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and towards the end, she didn't necessarily like a lot of people.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My mom, yeah, she kind of got a mean streak, but I think
Yeah,
because it's scary for one,
yeah.
for one thing,
Oh,
it's confusing
yeah,
to not understand. We think she has Lewy body. She fits a lot of the symptoms that my husband's uncle's mother. Find the connection there. That his
I've been living in Georgia for, um, 20 years now, so uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, yeah, I'm good with
Yeah, it's a
that. Mhm.
relative's mother that and they would describe, and then we would describe, and they'd be like, "Oh, that totally sounds like Lewy body." The inability to recognize things you're looking at,
Yeah, yeah,
and that was tough, and I think that was frightening. It would be to
yeah.
me,
Oh, yeah,
and watching it was frightening. But she's kind of plateaued now, where she's lost most of her ability to do most of everything,
oh, that's
which is
really
really,
sad.
really tough.
Yeah,
It's tough to watch. So, I have
yeah,
great sympathy for anyone who has a relative that they take care of
yeah,
that has these issues. It's tiring. Just it would be tiring just spending a day with her, and we would see her 4 to 5 times between my youngest as an LPN. So we would take turns, and we
mhm,
would alternate days to make
yeah,
sure that she had somebody with her
right,
almost every day. But then once lockdown hit,
Yeah, you can't do any of that.
We
It's
couldn't
just too
go.
dangerous.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it was tough, and then all of a sudden she just plummeted because she didn't have that stimulation every day. Though the fun, I mean, you're talking about things, that are happening around you and you laugh about them. Uh, I've got so many little things that she said that will end up in books in the future.
Mhm.
And one of we were we were I took her out. I think the last time we went out to lunch before the pandemic. So this was in January, in like early mid January maybe, and we went to a Greek restaurant, and there was a younger couple at the table next to us. And my mother's 91, and she's telling me, and I'm sitting across the table, so she's talking a little louder.
Louder.
She's telling me, I had a baby recently, though I don't remember having intercourse. The guy at the table next to me, I thought he was going to fall out of his chair. He was trying not to laugh. And when we left, I almost went back and told him, please laugh, please tell the story. It's hysterical.
Mhm.
It's the only way that we can deal with a lot of the things that she says and
Yeah.
does is to laugh about it.
Right, right.
It's but that one was funny.
Yeah, we there was a great story from my grandmother before she died. She'd fallen and broken her arm, and was at the hospital. Well, she called my grandfather and said, "I'm in jail and you need to come and bail me
Oh,
out." My grandmother, who had never gotten so much as a parking ticket. I don't know what she thought she'd done. I always wanted to know. I was like, what does Betty Lou think she has done to end up in jail?
oh, that would have been good to know.
I really wanted to know that. And there may be a story that I write about that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and maybe she did something in her youth that you don't know about.
it's entirely possible.
Yeah, our grandparents had lives before us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they did.
Okay, well, I've had you here. I've kept you hostage forever here. But tell everybody how to find you if they would like to get your book, and they would like to get your book. It's called Under the Blood Moon by Tracie Provost. I can speak. And how can they find you?
Well, you can find me. Well, the book is available on Amazon. And you can find me at my website, which is www.tracieprovost.com. Since my mother decided that Tracy needed to be spelled with an IE. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, although, yeah, um,
Yeah,
not
I'm
much.
Instagram too, and yeah, I'm just never over there. I've tried to, and it's
I am on Twitter, more now than I used to be. That was one of the things during the pandemic. I decided I was gonna try to learn Twitter. I don't know if it's really worked, but it's gotten a little bit better. Um, and Pinterest, amazingly enough, I've got some boards up there I use for inspiration for the books.
oh, that's interesting. I'll have to check
Um,
those out. I like Pinterest, but it's like a rabbit hole.
oh, it is. It's an absolute rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Um,
it's hard to climb back out of.
but sometimes I just need um, some visuals as I'm writing, um, especially with this last book. I needed a tacky bar and I needed a goth bar. So you can find some of my inspirations on there. And probably my next um, work in progress will start up. I'm actually going to shift gears a little bit and try my hand at small town romance.
Ooh, are you going to use
So
your same name, or are you going to use a pen name?
that I'm not sure of right now. Um, Probably I will stay with my name. Um, Unless I decide that I really just need to rebrand totally with the But I kind of like my name. I've had it for, a really long time now. And,
It works. Yeah.
well, the thing that I've always worried about is going to one of these conferences and somebody's calling me and me not recognizing my pen name, you know.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
I don't think
Yes.
I'd want to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll probably come out under Tracie Provost.
That's probably smart. And I know they say you should use a pen name for every genre you write. And, but,
you
and
know, I know
yeah.
a number of authors who they use the same name and they cross genres.
And it works fine. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do have fantasy and some horror that I am writing co-authoring, and I'm using a pen name, but I'm using my birth name.
Ah, yeah.
So I was adopted, and my birth family, father's side, found me at Christmas, and a
Oh,
sister from my
wow.
mother's side. So yeah, so that was this last Christmas. So it's been a year and a couple months, and they're fantastic people. I just love them so much.
Right.
And I'm going to use, and I thought, I really like my birth name. It's weird. Okay, if you have a kid and they were adopted, do not change their name. My name was
Yeah.
changed like 3 times. And
Oh, wow.
introducing myself, I like the name Melissa, but every time I say it, I get my stomach kind of gets a feeling like I'm
Mm,
lying my
yeah.
whole life. I always felt
Oh,
like I was lying. And when I was in my 30s, my mother said, "Oh yeah, we changed your name," and I'm like, "What?" And then I found out that the adoption agency changed my name.
oh,
Also,
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
they changed it to protect me from my father, so he couldn't find me. And it was like, and the crazy thing is, I when I was adopted, I lived just over the hill in the next town over in Paradise, and he was in Chico for the first
Wow.
year. And there's like a hill between them. So we
Yeah.
were so close. And I almost went to school. I almost went to college at University of Chico instead of University of Sacramento. A University California State in Chico instead of California State in
Mhm.
Sacramento. And he had 2 stereo stores in Chico. So I probably would
Wow.
have shopped there or tried to work
Yeah.
there. So, it's so
Weird
freaky.
intersections. Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaky, but so I think I will use my birth name for my pen name for the fantasy and the
Hmm.
horror, just because the cozy romances that I write, there's no cursing in them.
Ah,
And
yeah.
and I was sending to my co-author. I sent the first paragraph. I've written the first chapter of this book we're working on together like 4 different times, and I said I couldn't get the feel of the voice. So then I
Hmm.
wrote a paragraph yesterday and went, "There's the voice." And I say
Yeah.
shit. I say shit in the first line. Like,
Hmm.
my cozy people are not going to like that, so I don't want to. I'll tell them,
Yeah.
but I don't want to. You know.
I figure that my voice, while it'll change a little bit, Juliet is pretty damn salty. Um, and well, I'm pretty damn salty. I warn my students on the first day, this is probably going to be an R-rated class, and chances are I will drop an F-bomb. I teach university, and if you're going to be offended by salty language, you might want to find a different.
Yeah, that's more interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
My daughter was a teacher. She's a chemistry teacher for a long time, and well, 3 years, and then she went to the private sector. But she said in class one day she's doing something on the board, and their students are all laughing, and she said, "What? You just said the F word?" And she said, "Did I?"
yeah, yeah. And this is why I don't teach high school, because I couldn't censor myself enough to do it. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the F word is my. I'm not going to say it now, but it's
Yeah,
my favorite word, and I say it
yeah.
constantly. So, yeah, and because I knew I was writing cozy. Well, I didn't know I was writing cozy till after I wrote it and I was told, but it just didn't feel like at first she was cursing and it just didn't feel right for my
Feel right.
character, you know?
And
So
some
anyway,
characters it doesn't feel right, but others it works. And
yeah, yeah,
so,
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, and I think that sometimes the pen name works if you don't want to have like if you write erotica and children's stories, you should
yeah,
use a
they're
pen
they're not
name.
gonna work. And also, I'm far enough in my academic career that I really don't care what other historians say about me. You know, if they want to dismiss me as being fluffy because I write urban fantasy, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah. And you
um,
shouldn't. And that's great that you don't have to care. Yeah.
exactly. I think if I was at a different place in my career, I would probably have published under a pseudonym.
Yeah.
And I did briefly consider it, but then I was like, no, I'm proud of what I do.
Yeah,
Um,
and yeah, I've got
and
other people who've been on the show that are teachers, professors, and they do write under pen names because there's too early in their career that they
no,
don't
and
want.
I am completely, you know, I think it's got to be a personal choice, and that you, whatever works for you at this point in your life.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I
yeah, I
would never
agree.
say, oh, well, that you're a sellout because you don't publish under your own name. No, 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 no. I am just lucky enough that I can say, this is who I am, and I don't care what anybody else says.
Oh yeah, and then that's wonderful that you're able to. But I will let you go now, and
Okay.
everybody can find Tracie by looking down in the show notes. I will have links to everything we talked about, and that's it. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on. I wish we'd done
Thank
this
you.
sooner. And when the new book comes out, let me know. I'll have you back on and have
Sure.
you read some of that one, and
Sure.
uh, and we'll see you again then.
Okay. See ya.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, Tracie. And go ahead and click on the link to her mailing list and get the short story. It's very short, but it's very good of how Juliet became a vampire. I think you will like it. I liked it. So I think you will too. If you have any comments, go down to the show notes and click on comment. It will take you over to our YouTube page and I'll find it and I can answer it if you have a question or if you want to recommend a book. I'm always looking for more books to read. So let me know what you're reading. I'm dying to know. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Just take a look for that button that says subscribe. It's down there in the bottom right corner and it's in red. Click on that, and then you'll see a little bell right next to it. Click on that, and then you will get a notification every time there's a new episode, which is almost every Thursday, unless I don't have the internet for some reason, which happens occasionally. I'm hoping it's all settled now, but we'll see. And that's it for this time. I will see you next time. Go read a good book.